Hello, people of grace. For our Pastoral Connect this week, I'm beaming in from Rev's Gym from my back porch and just want to look at one verse today. As in our regular worship services, we continue our study in the book of Ecclesiastes. And we're in chapter 4 this week, and Ecclesiastes 4:1 says, "Again I saw all the oppressions that are done under the sun, and behold, the tears of the oppressed, and they had no one to comfort them. On the side of their oppressors there was power, and there was no one to comfort them." So what Solomon is observing close to 3,000 years ago is what you could kind of call an oppression power cycle, or sometimes I call it a calamity rebellion cycle. So oppression is a calamity. Oppression is an evil. And when there is enough oppression for long enough, eventually people try to just seize power or rebel. But that never really breaks the cycle. When you become power-oriented, then eventually, whether you intend to or not, you create a big enough system, a scaled enough system, that it oppresses those that are toward the bottom of that system, whatever the system is. It's all a big pyramid scheme. And so eventually those oppressed people get angry enough and they rebel and they seek power. How do we break the cycle? Because seeking comfort, seeking relief from oppression through seizing power appeals to all of our worst instincts and our deeply embedded, maybe even traumatized trust and control issues. So how do we break the cycle? Well, Solomon says that under the sun, the way the world thinks, really you can't break the cycle, even if you have good intent. Solomon was the king when he wrote this, and though Solomon made many mistakes, you don't get this idea that he himself was intentionally being corrupt. Rather, he was conducting a big experiment. But if we're willing to get beyond our rationality and realize that there's some other part of us that God is also speaking to, then we have ears to hear Zechariah 4:6, where God says, "Not by might nor by power." It's not by grabbing might or power, but by my Spirit, because ultimately God's Spirit is the comforter. Now, Zechariah 4:6 is God saying he's going to send his Spirit, who will bring the Spirit's comfort through his anointed ones, which in Zechariah 4:6 is two olive trees where Zerubbabel and Joshua, head of the government, head of the priesthood. Well, those are ultimately types of Christ. And Christ is the anointed one through whom God's Spirit comes. And his Spirit is the comforter, so we achieve comfort not through this oppression, power, calamity, rebellion, spinning cycle, but internally through our relationship with Christ and the Spirit that comes from inside working out. In other words, we need to deal individually with God and his Spirit and have that anointing come into us. That's not by might nor by power, so that we are internally in a loving, hopeful, faithful place. And we're coming from that place out to our world, wherever we find ourselves in the power structure. But truth be told, God does his best work bottom up. He chooses the lowly, the weak, the oppressed. He identifies with the oppressed. Christ was oppressed when he came. And he doesn't seek to just grab more power. He doesn't look to climb up. He looks to lift up and put himself under, because he's in a loving, hopeful, faithful place. He's not looking for anything out here to comfort him. He is reconciled. God has a reconciled heart. Through Christ, we can have a reconciled heart. That's where we find our comfort. And that is by God's grace made available to all of us, regardless of where we are in the structures of this world. And that's an encouraging thought. Have a blessed day.